This is the Critical Drinker, and I've been hearing a bit about this Lord of the Rings. I knew it was getting like a Gollum movie with Andy Serkis coming back to be Gollum, to play Gollum. And apparently we're getting more news. This is Critical Drinker, in crapification. He didn't write in crapification. I say crap. He used whatever. Of Lord of the Rings.
They say that those who forget their history are doomed to repeat it, and looking at how Hollywood has treated The Lord of the Rings over the past couple of decades, I can't help but think there's a grain of truth in that. Just like Star Wars before it, it all began with the classic original trilogy, born from a sublime blend of inspired writing, technical skill, and timeless themes of heroism and adventure, followed by an overblown and underwhelming...
Oh. I was like, I do like the parallels, and then of course they go to the prequels. And they go to the prequels that rely too much on CGI instead of the actual story.
Trilogy of prequels made by the same people, just older and lamer now, that failed to recapture the magic of the originals. And finally, decades later, with money-hungry studios desperate to squeeze a bit more money out of old IPs before the actors get too old or die, we come at last to the end game.
Make it shitty!
We already saw it with Rings of Power, Amazon's cringy attempt to compensate for a lack of artistic merit and creative ability with embarrassing amounts of money. And let's be honest, you don't need me to tell you what a fucking train wreck that turned out to be. It's great for us content creators though.
It's good for some. It's good for some. For me, I couldn't get through Rings of Power. Star Wars was more my thing, and just seeing that die in front of my eyes, I got to the like all the stages of grief, and then I finally got to the Acolyte, and I'm just like, this is just a parody of itself. Like even Spaceballs couldn't do this kind of comedy. Even Spaceballs couldn't make this kind of BS up. That's how bizarre it's gotten.
But even stranger things are afoot at Warner Brothers, arguably the dumbest studio in Hollywood with a massive catalogue of IPs that they somehow managed to fumble time and time again. First up was the War of the Rohirrim. Remember that? Nah, me neither. An animated movie that was sharted out as quickly as possible so that Warner could retain the film rights to the franchise, which probably explains why more than 50 different animation studios were pulled in to get it finished in time, and why it looks janky as fuck. It was billed as the story of legendary warrior Helm Hammerhand in his last stand at the fortress of Helm's Deep, but really it was all just a bait and switch to focus on his daughter Hera, a character that gets mentioned in like one sentence of the original appendices and was so unimportant that Tolkien didn't even bother giving her a name. And this guy names fucking everything. And of course, she turns out to be the usual generic invincible girl boss who beats everyone and wins at everything because modern writing. But it's okay because nobody fucking watched the movie anyway, and it was a massive flop.
Yeah, that's the thing. I wasn't even looking forward to it. And like the Battle of Helm's Deep is like one of the greatest sequences in like the Lord of the Rings. Like to learn the origin story of Helm's Deep and to why the Helm Hammerham and all that, to learn that story. And then they based it around a non-existent character because the creatives wanted to go have their creative liberties with this character who has no purpose in the entire story, and then they literally make the entire story revolve around them. And again, that makes sense with like, again, historical fiction where you're taking history and putting a story. This story, the Rohirrim already had an entire story built around it. They literally had to tear that apart in order to fit a woman into the role. I mean, Of course.
Then came the baffling announcement of The Hunt for Gollum, a prequel about Aragorn's quest to track down and capture Gollum sometime after Bilbo took the ring from him. A tiny fragment of the original book where everyone knows the outcome already, that was summarized in like 2 paragraphs at the Council of Elrond's. Like, why? Who the fuck even asked for this? How do you expect the original actors to reprise their roles when they're all 20 years older now? Why is Andy Serkis directing it? I mean, I've seen his body of work as a director and it's not impressive. When I think about all the incredible side stories, tales of forgotten heroism, tragic love and bitter betrayal that you could tell in the Lord of the Rings universe, why go for something as goofy and pointless as this? Anyway, I've dodged it long enough.
Because it's Andy Serkis. It's Andy Serkis. I mean, he does amazing, like, he is the reason people are so in love with like the motion capture, because of his Gollum, because of his Caesar in Planet of the Apes, because he was literally the cornerstone of it because of his Gollum. his Gollum captured the minds and imagination of other film creators, that now he's kind of like the linchpin in it. Like, yeah, people just know him for those roles. Yes, he can act. Yes, he does other stuff. But at the same time, it's just, that is what built his career. That is what built his career.
Enough, let's get this over with, shall we?
That wasn't the worst of it. No, was it?
No! Just like McCoy here, it's time to face my deepest pain. Last night, Peter Jackson took to the internet to announce yet another Lord of the Rings film project that nobody asked for or wanted. And this is when shit truly got real.
Oh, actually, why don't I get somebody else to explain it? Because we've got a very special partner that we're working with. And you can see for yourself. Hang on. There we go. Hello.
Hi, Peter.
What the?
No. Okay. Stephen Colbert had his prime like 20 years ago when he had his skit on Comedy Central where he just made fun of politics. And then he literally became the political narrative. Well, he's getting fired, so I guess he'll have time to actually do Lord of the Rings now. But yes, he's a huge Lord of the Rings fan. The problem is, why would you give it in the hands of somebody who is obviously, I don't know the best way to say it, but it just brain rotted. Just brain rotted. I am okay if somebody has a political bias and they introduce that in their narrative. There's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with that. What I have an issue with is when somebody literally creates a film where the bias is the narrative, is the film. And that's what Stephen Colbert would do. He's completely lost his mind. He's completely a brain dead when it comes to any kind of creativity now. Because he doesn't even write his own crap anymore. It's just a team of writers that do it all, because it all needs to be as safe for the world as possible, because comedy doesn't exist anymore, apparently.
Fuck! Why in the name of Sauron's molten arse pipe would you bring in this tragically unfunny, propaganda-spewing clown to write your multi-million-dollar Lord of the Rings movie? A man whose illustrious screenwriting credits include such gems as Strangers with Candy and...
Strangers with Candy?
Why are we bringing talk show hosts in to write our movies now? Like, is Oprah Winfrey gonna write the next Star Wars movie? How about we get Jimmy Kimmel in to do the next Jurassic Park? Actually, that would probably be an improvement at this point, to be honest. Now, in fairness to old Stephen here, he is a big Lord of the Rings nerd, although fuck knows what a guy like him sees in Tolkien's pro-Western, anti-authoritarian story of friendship, loyalty, honor, masculine heroism, and clearly defined morality. But there's a big old difference between knowing the lore of a fictional world and actually writing a good story with it. Just ask Rian Johnson. Then there's his politics, of which there are many. Like, remember when Peter Jackson famously said,
We didn't want to put any of our own, certainly in terms of the thematic material, we didn't want to put any of our own baggage. I mean, we had no interest in putting our messages into this movie.
And that's how you just have to approach it. You have to respect the original creator's vision. You have to. Just because you're allowed to create something out of it doesn't mean you can change the entire story. Doesn't mean you can change the narrative just to benefit your War of Rohirrim fan fetish. No, just keep the story as it was. Keep the history of Middle-earth as the history of Middle-earth. You don't want to Rings of Power it, where you literally take centuries of time. You take centuries of time, and all you do is you sum it all up in a matter of a few seasons, because you just want a ton of stuff to utilize. It makes no sense.
But we thought that we should honor Tolkien by putting his messages into it.
yeah, I wouldn't expect the same attitude from Stephen Colbert, a man so utterly consumed by his hatred of the Orange Man that he drove away his own audience and nuked his talk show. Jesus, this guy almost makes Mark Hamill look normal. The problem is, people like that can literally never let go of their political hang-ups. It's impossible because it becomes bound up in the very core of who they are. It seeps into everything they say and do, and if he's allowed to write a script for Lord of the Rings...
Because it's their belief. It's their belief. How do people get when they don't know enough about their own religion and then their religion gets targeted and they don't know how to answer the questions about their own religion? Well, they get angry. They start lashing out. That's the exact same thing. It's a complete faith-based belief at this point. where there is no logic there is no critical thought, because critical thought can't be had. You can't have, I remember always having these kinds of conversations with pastors, with other people, because it just makes sense to always be critically thinking of stuff. The problem is politics has become the main cornerstone religion in society. In society, politics has become it. Instead of the people knowing that, oh, everyone has different perspectives in life, no one will see eye to eye, it's become you're either with us or against us. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. How did politics become the religion of the world? How? When? It's like all of a sudden everything became about politics. Politics is disgusting. Politics is absolute people who are elected officials who literally sell out their own nation to line their own pockets. That's what politics is. Why do we care? Why is politics so important when it has nothing to do for the common people except for those elite people to line their own pockets? I mean, that is what politics truly is deep down. We don't need politicians, we need leaders. That there is a difference, but no one wants to differentiate that. Because the second they realize that what a nation needs is a leader, they would admit the fact that politics is evil and they should have never been backing these evil people.
Well, I think you can imagine who Sauron is going to become a clumsy allegory for. Speaking of which, let us review the outline of this epic saga in the making, shall we? As per the report from Deadline News, The Lord of the Rings, Shadow of the Past is set 14 years after the passing of Frodo. Sam, Merry and Pippin set out to retrace the first steps of their adventure. Meanwhile, Sam's daughter Eleanor has discovered a long-buried secret and is determined to uncover why the War of the Ring was very...
What is this? The girl that's the key to everything? I think that's the trope. That's the Hollywood trope where there's a girl that happens to have all the answers. That has all the answers. It's already been played out, yet for some reason, they keep doing it. They keep freaking doing it. Of course, it's Sam's daughter. Samwise Gamgee's daughter.
Nearly lost before it even began. Tell you what, right? I'll give you 3 guesses about who the real protagonist of this movie turns out to be, and here's a little hint to get you started. It's not going to be Sam, Merry, or Pippin.
Girls get it done.
You know, it's so fucking funny when life literally becomes the meme. When you can straight up predict exactly what's going to happen from like 10 nautical miles away, and it still does. Like, if I was to predict what Hollywood writers would do if they were asked to write a sequel to Lord of the Rings, it would basically be this. Defrost the original cast and have them come back playing older, pussified versions of their characters who learn the true meaning of adventure from a younger, more diverse, more female replacement that doesn't just outshine them in every way possible, but also makes them realize they were never really that heroic in the first place.
Make it shitty.
In fact, screw it, we might as well race swap a legacy character like Aragorn while we're at it. I mean, I know Hollywood desperately wants to do it. It's a battle we're gonna fight and lose sooner or later, so we might as well get it over with now. Not only does this crap remind me of the historical Ensh-ttification of Star Wars, but I also can't help thinking of James Gunn's DCU by James Gunn. That guy has access to some of the greatest superhero characters in history. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Nightwing, and instead of exploiting his biggest assets, he wastes huge amounts of time, money, and fan goodwill, churning out irrelevant vanity projects like Creature Commandos, Peacemaker, and Clayface. All of this is to say...
Because that's the thing, that's what he enjoys. He enjoys the nothing characters. Not the big crowd pleasers, not the big the big money makers. He prefers the more nuanced comic book characters.
That I'd trust Stephen Colbert to make a good Lord of the Rings movie about as much as I'd trust Movie Bob with my birthday cake. And the sad realization here is, this shit's never gonna stop, is it? For a long time, it really felt like Hollywood was smart enough, or just scared enough, not to mess with Lord of the Rings and just appreciate a job well done. That time, however...
See, the thing is, I remember when Star Wars was being sold to Disney, South Park came out with an episode about how China was trying to interfere to purchase Star Wars because and it was evil. China was evil for trying to do that, because the thing is, China wanted to preserve Star Wars and have it sit on the shelf, and just it would be an excuse to print money re-release the old films. This was the joke South Park created. And at that point in time, I was like, no, I would love to see the future of Star Wars. Not realizing at that point in time, the winds have already shifted to a weird, non-existent reality of the world where they're chasing a fictional audience instead of actually having the fans that were already there, who were introducing their own kids to the things they loved, who would then introduce their kids. Because a lot of fans were grandfathered in from the original OG Star Wars. It was an excuse to print money. It was an excuse to print money. Always come out with like new 25th anniversary toys, 30th anniversary toys, reprints of these Lando Calrissian, you know, that kind of stuff. They could easily have done that continuously. But no, they had to literally destroy the entire IP. The entire IP is now mud. Nobody cares for it. Nobody cares for it. And that's the problem. It's just like, I remember watching that, and now I feel like China should have bought it. China should have bought it and left it on the shelf. South Park's story should have been reality. Should have been reality. They should have bought it and left it on the shelf. Not let Disney completely destroy the legacy characters, because Hollywood has no original thought, because they can't hire an original thinker, because original thinkers are deemed as like sexist or racist or misogynist, or I guess that would be sexist, misogynistic, but it just, they're seen as all the ists and phobes because they want to write a story from their own personal perspective, not doing any kind of identity politics, but just writing something that they're passionate about. And then guess what? Someone gets the hold of it, and then you end up with the Witcher series. You end up with the Rings of Power. You end up with Star Wars, whatever, the Skywalker nonsense, the Rise of Palpatine. You end up with all this utter crap. This utter crap that nobody wanted or asked for.
Has long since passed, and I can't help thinking that Lord of the Rings is rapidly becoming the new Star Wars, just another convenient IP to be strip-mined until there's nothing left. And the more crap like this that gets churned out, the more it slowly tarnishes the legacy of Tolkien's masterpiece. We'll always have the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, well, until they remake it for modern audiences, but the time when we could actually do justice to Tolkien's work has long since passed, and somehow I don't think Stephen Colbert is going to bring it back. Anyway,
Yep.
That's all I've got for today.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's just disgusting. That's just disgusting. I can't believe that. I really can't believe that. They're literally destroying massive IPs, massive excuses to print money, because pretty soon it'll get to the point where they'll re-release these things in theaters and nobody would care to watch the original Lord of the Rings. Nobody would care to watch the original Harry Potters. Nobody would care to watch the original Star Wars. Nobody would care, because the old fans of it are dying out or are checking out. That's just it. I have no drive to go to cinemas to ever see Star Wars. I have no drive to ever go to cinemas to see Lord of the Rings. I have no drive to, because they've ruined it. I mean, put Die Hard in cinemas. I'll go and see that because they haven't completely ruined it. Sure, they made some flops here and there, but they didn't completely destroy the character. When Hollywood tries to make something original from a book or lore, they make something like Divergent or Hunger Games, but one bad movie, and they abandon the IP. Yeah, because they need to again, I personally believe if you're going to create like an actual project of a product, you have to get people that respect and love that product. You can't get people, like for the Marvel movies, they were actually hiring people who had either never read comic books or didn't like superheroes. They were literally hiring people that hated the genre. You need to have people, like same thing with like The Witcher. The only person that loved The Witcher in the entire writing, casting, everything happened to be the lead actor. Was the lead actor. The writers hated the original story. Everything. that you had the lead actor literally trying to nudge everyone to do it differently. It's like, no, this is not the character. This is not the character. This is not the character. It's done this way at this point in time, at this chapter, at this. That's the thing. It's like you need people who are absolutely passionate in charge. They need to be the directors. They need to be the writers. They need to be the cinematographers, because they would have the vision on how to capture it. Sure, the cinematographers will have it from one perspective, the directors will have it from another perspective, and the writers will have it from another perspective. As they bring it all to life, you bring all their visions of being massive fans of something, and you're going to actually see it come to life. You can't be having these people who just hate a project. That just hate a project. You can't have them. I didn't care for the Harry Potter trailer. No, I did not. Or teaser. I didn't care for the Harry Potter teaser. Narnia trilogy was original. Then they abandoned remaining books, and now they making woke Narnia with female Aslan as the lion. Yeah. They completely, like, I like the old Narnia, the original 3 movies. I mean, there are 7 books, but they only ever do 3 movies. Just how it works, I guess.
You guys got a video? It's so bad.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Wait on that.